Turf today. Get up and brush off the dew on that. Turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Cut it and roll that dew on that. Turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Set up, they about to come through on that. Turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Let's get out the way. Here comes first play. Let's maintain that turf today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Water. It's the lifeblood of the game, the unseen force that transforms fairways into carpets, greens into glass, and roughs into playable ground. But water alone isn't enough. It takes precision, control, and innovation to deliver it exactly where it belongs. That's where Toro Irrigation stands apart. From cutting-edge sprinklers to intelligent control systems, Toro brings superintendents the power to master water like never before. Reliable, efficient, unmatched. Because every drop matters, every swing deserves perfection, and every course deserves the best. Toro, always solving, always evolving. First episode from the new studio today, so I've been scrambled, and like I said in the email too, I've just been nervous too to get to talk to you again today because
Dude, you don't need to be nervous, man. That's
you're just one of those people, one of those people. So, so we're very fortunate to have Sean Bacon on today. Somebody who's been very integral in my life and helping me out. Certainly not part of the turf industry. We talk to a lot of turf professionals, but today we have somebody on who can talk a lot about leadership and mental toughness because he's certainly been through a lot and has a lot of great advice and some great stories for us. So we're looking forward to talking to Mr. Bacon today. So Coach, welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure.
We like when our guests kind of go back to the beginning and just take us through, a bit of your life and your upbringing and some of the things you learned and then kind of where your career has taken you today.
Yes, go right to the beginning. I mean, I was born and raised in a small town in the Kootenays in British Columbia, mountain boy. Always wanted to join the Canadian Forces, so I did that. Not really a team sport guy. I'm more of an individual sport guy. I was, that kind of, person. But joined the military, found my calling. And in the 12 years that I was there, I served as a paratrooper, as a military policeman, served as an instructor in a variety of academies, but I ended my career as an instructor at the Military Police Academy, where I was the chief use of force instructor, second in command of firearms and tactics, and did a lot in interrogation psychology, so including my own studies. So, and then of course the challenges that come with that kind of career, both as a soldier and as a first responder. But I think my favorite thing to do in the military is I love teaching and I love taking people past their preconceived limitations. So that's where the mental toughness came in. When I got out of the military and went back to school, started seeing, and I kept getting asked to work with, hockey teams and soccer teams, et cetera. Started seeing this gap that, everyone's complaining about the athlete didn't have the grit necessary. And I went, well, have you taught it to them? Have you given it to them? Have you given them an opportunity? So that's where things started. And since then, 12, almost 13 years in business now, 99% of the business, we deal with corporate groups, senior leaders, developing leaders, emerging leaders, specifically in mental toughness, adversity, crisis, practical, or what we call kinetic leadership, critical thinking, et cetera, et cetera. So, I've got the best job in the world. I get to push people to their limits and teach them where they are. And there's no better job in the world. So, and I think that's, that's where you come in. That's how I met you.
You mentioned you grew up very much as an individual sport kind of person. Yeah. Obviously, the military and special forces is very team oriented. How did you make that shift from an individual mindset to a team mindset?
Actually, it was very easy because I cheated a little bit, to be honest, because I actually belonged to a youth group called, it was the cadet program. It was Air Cadets. And they're all over Canada. There's Army Cadets, Navy Cadets, Sea Cadets, Air Cadets. Fantastic program. And, I took survival training. I took leadership training. So there's this great format. So when I did join the military, I already had kind of a pre-understanding of what it was going to need, what was needed from me. And an individual cannot survive in that environment, especially basic training, boot camp. Okay, you have to be a team. You have to work as a group. Otherwise, you will never get all the tasks done. And then as you go through course after course after course in the military, they increase the degree of difficulty on you. They also increase the rate of failure on you. As you go up, the rate of failure goes up. So you're constantly being pushed to new limitations. So the only way you can get through is as a team. You have to be there for the person to your left and to your right. I mean, even as an individual athlete, I always admired when I could run beside someone that was better than me. Or as a fighter, as a martial artist, I could fight against someone that was better than me, because even though that's not quite a team environment, you're always counting on someone to push your boundaries. And that's what it takes. One singular person can't do it by themselves. So realistically, the team environment, I loved it. It was fantastic. That ability to have a brother and sisterhood, that was the number one thing I missed when I left. It wasn't, the adrenaline. It wasn't. It was the loss of community and that high, ridiculously high level of trust and teamwork. So that's in a nutshell, very much what the military. I loved it as an individual athlete. The team. There's something about team that is just amazing.
So important going through something like that. We talk a lot about mental toughness and what we do, and obviously something you focus on. So we'd like to talk about it a little bit here. And
Sure.
I'd like to just talk about, or ask you, in your military career, was there kind of a defining moment where you were like, hey, this is, like there's some serious power to mental resilience here?
Yeah, well, there's always an occasion for it, but I think the apex of my career is when I tried out for Special Forces selection for our Tier 1 unit, JTF2, and I failed. I didn't make it. But the funny part is you do all this training, up training, and I had all the right mentors, I had all the right background, I had all the courses required to do it. But you don't know what you're walking into because it's classified. Like, you literally don't know what you're walking into. So you prepare yourself, mind, body, and soul, to the best of your ability. And then you walk in, and within the first 2 hours, I'd blown past every limitation I thought I had. And back then it was a 6-day program. And and I got a physical injury. I tore my Achilles tendon in half, and coming out of we were going through some frozen ice and coming out of a gully, and I just stepped wrong, and it was just guitar string. And then the funny part is as we were going into what's called a dead man carry. It's like you're carrying a person in your arms, like carrying a bride over the threshold, and you're going, and it's not really a run, and it's not really a walk. It's more of a shuffle, really. And I got this really big dude. He's about 200 pounds, and I'm at the time I'm about 175, 180, and I'm hurting. And we're not supposed to talk to each other. And he just looked up at me and says, "Don't stop. Just don't." And that's all I needed to hear, is that little touch, that sliver of encouragement. And I kept going. But in every step I took, I made it much worse. And then I finally, we've come off that drill, and now we're going into a sprint. And I can't keep up. And I finally, my leg gave out. I dropped. And there's an ambulance following us at all times. And they get out, and they said, "Catch up or get on the ambulance." They give you the choice. They purposely do that. And I'm looking up, and I'm trying to get up, and it's just not happening. And I finally just said, "Okay, I'm done. Put me on the damn it." And I was pretty indignant. I was pretty angry. Put me on the fucking ambulance. But the funny thing was, I get to the back of the ambulance, and the guy said, "You didn't quit. You failed." And that really resonated. Now it's a part of my teaching. So, just that small, tiny slice of being pushed, that was like the apex. To this day, I compare everything I do in terms of challenging myself to that moment. And I try to encourage everyone to have that moment in their life, to have that moment where it's just over the top, crazy intense, and it's okay if you fail, because you're going to compare every success after that to that moment. So that's just, that's my defining moment.
I'm a huge believer in failure is a big part of growth. So it sounds like you've taken that lesson and really developed out of that. The one thing you said earlier that I want to touch on real quick is you mentioned in a lot of your training sessions that you talk about grit and you ask if they've trained grit. I always think that determination, that grit, that willpower is something that's kind of natural and that you just have instinctively. Talk about how you go about teaching someone to have that grit.
Well, it's funny how people think it's natural, because what you don't realize is that grit that you think is natural was ingrained in you at a very young age, when you were learning at an instinctual level, the real developmental years. Typically you see people with grit, and that's because they probably fell down and the parent didn't lose their mind and they just said, okay, get up, try again. That's where you're seeing the learning of grit, is usually at that level. But when you're dealing with adult learning, or even adolescent learning, or even, kids, it doesn't matter. Actually, kids are the best. Kids are malleable. They're elastic. You can bounce them. They're fantastic. I think my favorite moments for training young athletes, because the coaches were losing their mind. The sports scientists were losing their mind. I'm making them leopard crawl and fireman carry and body drag and everything under the sun. And they loved it. And that actually taught them grit. It was because, it's at the time we were in the Okanagan. It's ridiculously hot, and they're doing it. And the parents actually loved it. Well, most of the parents anyway. But with that being said, you can teach it. Now, in a corporate environment, I can't make people do physical things, but I can make them challenge their own ideas. I can take an idea, put it up and go, what's beyond this point? And then challenge their self-belief system of what their limitations are. When I do executive coaching, usually, or even athletic coaching, the number one thing I got to do is get a person out of their own way. So grit and character both can be taught. Problem: you have to create a circumstance that makes them uncomfortable, that gets them the psychological and emotional scar or physical scar tissue needed to know that was the point behind them. But we love our comfort zone. We also like to keep people in their comfort zone. And then we love to bitch and complain because no one's pushing anymore. So at the end of the day, sometimes it takes a person like me to come in and just say, hey, where's the mark? Okay, now let's put the mark over here and let's see how far you get. And I like to put the mark out of their grasp. I want them to fail. I want them to see the value of failure. I want to get their ego out of the equation. I want to get them to build confidence and turn failure into success in real time without being emotionally hijacked, per se. So that's how I do it. And I mean, that's really scratching the surface of it.
Sure.
When I was working with Adam and when he was in hockey, I mean, there was a physical component. I mean, I made them tread water in a pond filled with snakes. I think Adam wasn't very fond of that at the time.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I have nightmares about stuff like that.
Dude. Well, we heard Sean was coming in. They kind of told us, hey, there's this guy coming in where it was a training camp thing. So we're all getting to learn and meet each other. And so we go and stay in literally a camp in the woods for, I think it was 2 days or 2 nights. And Sean just had us, and it was every drill you could possibly do, where we were running and jumping and in the water, out of the water, all the different races. And it was all teamwork based. And I remember we were all like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to get through this? And then you're going through it and you're like, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. This is unbelievable. And my favorite part about that whole 2 days was after it, when we were all kind of hanging around, having lunch, telling stories. Everybody's got these big smiles on their face. Everybody's gassed. But it was just such a perfect way to kind of bond. And now, like you with, that incident with your Achilles tendon, I now compare everything I do in my life to those 2 days with you. because it was so hard to get through mentally. It's like I'm never going to go through something that physically and mentally tough again. There might be emotional things that I'm going to have to deal with in my life, but mentally and physically, like you said, you have to put yourself through something like that to be able to know that, okay, I can get through this. I can get through anything now because oh yeah, we were that was a 48 hours I'll never forget. So I'd like to ask you, how do people get in situations like that or put themselves through situations like that without having to hire someone like yourself coming out and running them through everything like that?
There's two ways. If they're young enough, team sports is a great way to do it. The team itself can choose to do something like that for themselves, and you do see that from time to time. But realistically, it comes down to, like, for myself, this is how I do it. And hopefully this gives us context. I pick one thing every year that makes me really uncomfortable. Like, not just a little, like way out there uncomfortable. And even if I fail at it, the amount I learn about not just myself, but how much further I can go or what I'm willing to do, that's the new university. Don't get me wrong. I believe in education at every level, but I think the ultimate university of knowledge is failure and discomfort. That's the ultimate. I'm going to go back to your sport for a second, not hockey, but golf. Tiger Woods. His dad was a senior sergeant in the U.S. Army, and he would jostle, when he's getting ready and trying to focus, he'd honk horns and throw shit at him. And he made it difficult so that when the pressure was on, his brain and his body were in the right place. Other people would say, well, that's a little over the top. Well, what's your goal? Is it to compete at an elite level? Well, then that's where you got to put yourself. Now, me, I'm not looking to jump out of planes anymore, although I'm not opposed to it. But I am curious. I, as an example to my own children and an example to my community, I got to be willing. So that's how people do it. Last year, I moved to Portugal. Actually, 15 months ago, I moved to Portugal. Deeply uncomfortable experience. And I don't live here part-time. I live here full-time. One thing I did, I took up motorcycle riding after years and years and years. Plus, I ended up doing the Everesting 29029 challenge, and also failed on that one. So every year it's something different. So whether it's learning a new language, a new skill set, I don't care if it's making pastry. I really don't. Okay. I don't golf. I guarantee you in the next 5 years, I'm going to learn to golf because it makes me uncomfortable.
I've played it for 4 years. It still makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'd rather shoot golf balls, okay, with a gun. Okay. But you see where this is going, right? So, ask yourself, what's one thing that makes you deeply uncomfortable that you're willing to try for your own self-growth and maybe the growth of you as a father or as a coach or a leader? Pick your poison.
Kind of going back to what Adam said and relating to, getting uncomfortable and failure and all that kind of stuff. How do you see failure as a team helps bring those teams together to continue to develop as a unit? That is such a good question.
If you ever want to build a team at light speed, and I said this to Coach Glenn DeTulio, which is Adam's coach, I said, it's pain and food. well, discomfort and food. Like, put them through something that's really uncomfortable, that they have to share the misery. They have to communally share the struggle. And then let them celebrate by breaking bread. And I'm still talking about Alabama white barbecue sauce. That's just crazy.
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
from your meal. But that's the truth. Failure is powerful because if you have the right leaders in the team that can frame the failure as a lesson learned or use it as a launching pad for trajectory to the next point, they'll get there. If you have anybody that is going to be subversive in the team, that's going to draw them back, that's going to linger in their emotional hostage taking, self-pity, disappointment, expectations, et cetera, self-anger, shame, whatever, it's emotions are addictive. You're going to stay there. If you're angry, you want to stay angry. If you're sad, you want to say sad. Even happiness, too much of it, is addictive and also equally as distracting. Notice how no one talks about that. They always like to talk about anger. But it's so true. So it's about the coach always giving the leader of the team, because the coach isn't always the leader of the team, the capacity to say, let's figure out how to frame a failure. And let's use this as our launching pad to the next success. And if you look at anything that's in a final state, a tournament, the finals, whatever, you'll always see a team consistently meet the finals, but always choke. Okay, that means they have the skill set to win, but it's their mental space that stops them from winning. And that goes without saying into any sport. Any sport. Okay, there's always going to be impact factors that will cause you to micro fail or fail on a big scale. But what are you willing to do? A good example of this, if you don't mind me kind of just digging a little deeper.
Go for it.
And it's not a team sport, though. It's funny. I do this all the time when I open up to a group. I do something called breaking the bias. When a military guy shows up, they're expecting, guys crawling under concertina wire, firemen carrying a guy, or jumping out of airplanes. Those are all very mentally tough things. But I think of my example when I had to push through and I needed someone in my head, my framework. I thought of Terry Fox. And I gave a lecture at the University of Texas in Houston. And I threw this out there. It's 700 people, and it was crickets. Just no. I was like, oh shit. No one knew who Terry was.
I don't know if everybody on this show is going to know, because it is a little worldwide.
That's all right, because now I'm going to tell you.
There you go.
Because it forced me to tell Terry's story. Now, Terry, here's this young man who lost his leg due to cancer in the 80s. He's in his early 20s. Okay. The prosthetic at the time, not very pretty, not meant for athletics. And he decides to raise awareness for cancer in a time of no social media. Period. Full stop. So he decides to go into action. He says, I'm going to run across Canada. I'm going to raise awareness. He starts, and people had to catch up to him. Now, that's a real leader. Create action, not at 100%, not at perfection. He had about 70% on, set up, and he's on his way. Terry Fox ran a marathon every single day for 143 days.
Insane.
Okay, on one leg. So when I hear crap like it can't be done, or I can't do that, or that's too much, that's too far, here's a person of average capability, but with one leg, with a fantastic mindset. And look what that did. I say average respectfully. I mean, we're talking about a guy that ran a marathon every day for 143 days on one leg. So when you want to dig deep and you want a measurement, you always find the person, and people are picking on like David Goggins, or they're picking on Jocko Willink, or I don't care who the person is. But if you look at them and how they push, they face their failures head on and very honestly, candidly even. They didn't say what it wasn't, they said what it is. And they had no problem saying, this sucks. It's okay if something sucks, but what are you going to do about it? Does that help? Did I answer the question, or did I go off the path a bit?
No, you totally answered the question and then some.
Okay, fair enough.
No, it was phenomenal. And I think, although we are in the golf industry, we do focus more on the turf side and the individuals working on the golf courses. And we do compare it a lot to a sport, because it is a team.
Yeah.
We have our leaders, we have our superintendents, and everybody that kind of pushes the industry. And there's a lot of pressure. It's not an easy job. It's tough. And there's lots of people looking, there's lots of opinions. And, I'd like to ask, when you are under extreme pressure like that, what techniques do you kind of rely on to maintain that focus and composure?
Make sure your mission is crystal clear. That's first. If your mission is ambiguous, so are your results. And also frame it in such a way that if nothing else happens by the end of the day, then blank, we will be successful. Think about that. If nothing else happens but this one thing, we will be successful. Framing it in such a way allows everything to go wrong, but allows your team to make decisions for you. You've decentralized your command now with that statement. They're allowed to make decisions for you as long as it's in alignment with that one thing. If nothing else happens today, then this sand trap is dug out, re-put in, repurposed, whatever. Then we're successful with no disruption to the client. Now everything else can be thrown at them as long as they get that one thing done. And now you also have people that are doing it and people supporting it. You have a crew that's doing a specific task, and then you have crews that are anticipating what they're going to need and supports that group. And then you have a periphery group that is supporting that group, that is supporting that group. So by understanding the mission so succinctly and then giving them that one gorgeous task, bang, everything else doesn't matter. And then they go to bed feeling successful. Second is communication. Make sure that it's not ambiguous. Make sure you're clear. Be explicit. Never assume people know what you're thinking or feeling or what your intention is. I once had a CEO tell me, well, my executive should just know this. Did you tell them? By the way, the answer was no. Okay. And then it really bothered that CEO to actually have to be explicit. She goes, I'm dumbing this down. I feel like I'm talking to children. No. Be explicit. It's okay if they already know it, but now they really know it. So be explicit. Let them know what your intent is. Let them know what the mission is. And also let them know, hey, today we might fail, but if we just get this one thing done, we're going to be ahead. And that goes a long way. And you're right, a golf course is a massive undertaking. The levels of operations and operational support are huge. And let's face it, the cost of doing business is high. So the expectations of the clients are equally as high. Unless I miss my guess because I don't golf.
No, they're high. They're high.
Yeah. You really hit on one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about there with communication. I think, for the people that listen to our show, they're managing large crews, and communication is key because you've got, maybe one director over, it could be 5 people, it could be 60 people.
Right.
And they all have their own different responsibilities, and you're sending them out usually to work in smaller groups. So kind of similar to probably what you face in the military, where you have a big team kind of broken down into separate teams. I'd love if you could just kind of expand on the importance of the communication and maybe some tactics, some tools that leaders can implement in order to get that communication sequence down properly and get everyone on the same page.
Well, let's start by defining a couple very important tools that are going to be needed in this conversation. So mental toughness is consistency and follow through. Problem is the number one thing that isn't consistent is communications. And the number one reason for conflict in the world is an absence of or disruption of communication. Full stop. You could pick any conflict whether it's you and your missus or you and your spouse or you and your partner, to a worldwide confrontation. Doesn't matter. It's that communication problem. So one thing I like to do, no matter what group I'm with, it is a habit from the military, and it's the morning briefing. And a morning briefing should only take about 10 minutes. It's quick, it's fast, and it's any questions, go. And then there's this constant communication afterwards if people have questions. So a morning briefing usually goes, okay, this is our mission today. The leader saying, this is the mission. And then going to each leader. Now, in the morning briefing, you just want to bring all your mid-level leaders, all your directors, for an example. Okay, where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? And you just go through each and every one. You get a what I call a sit rep, or the military calls a sit rep, a touch point, a situation report, a quick blink of what's going on in your world. And then all of a sudden something happens. They go, hey, right, I can help you with that. And you start to see this cross collaboration start to occur. Great. Then you can add little touch points of, okay, that's good. I understand we can tie you in with this group here. This person's going to support you guys. And that's what a good leader does. They orchestrate. Okay, I'm going to 2 minutes to look at your notes. Any questions? You make sure everyone has a pad of paper and it's writing shit down. I still write things down, even if I have something paperless right now, but I'm still writing. Even when I was with Adam's group in Alabama, I had a notepad constantly. After that 2 minutes, questions. And you go to each and every director and you give them an opportunity and the permission to ask you anything and everything. There's nothing off the table. After that, all right, everyone, off you go. I'll be touching point with you throughout the day. That tells you I'm not checking up on you, but I'm supporting you. So when you do go up and go, hey, where are you at? Oh, well, we've gotten this done. We're moving on to this. Great. Carry on. Or, yeah, we're struggling here. Okay, here's my 25 cents. Here's what I think where you need to head. And that's where a real beautiful leader can help their people lead and orchestrate the whole thing, because the person at the top needs to see the 80,000-foot view. The directors see 20,000 feet, and their people, well, they're pretty much looking at the tree. So that's the important part. But if you keep your people in the know of the big picture and any changes that happen in real time, they're going to help you. They're going to make decisions. They're going to bring things up to you faster. If you're punitive by nature in your communication, meaning if someone brings you a problem and you're losing your cool, they're going to stop bringing you their problem, and you fundamentally failed as a leader. If people stop bringing you their problems, you're toast. You failed. So that's how I do it. And I found great success in it. Also understanding the type of leader they need at a given situation. If it's a crisis, you need more of an authoritarian leader. And people are like, oh, I don't like that. In a crisis, I tell you what to do, you do it. We don't have a lot of time to discuss it. I'll explain things later. Crisis demands that kind of leadership because things have to move really fast. First aid, fire, you see that those are typically crises that demand that kind of leadership. Participative or democratic leadership, that's what I'm talking about at this level. I'm telling you what the mission is, getting collaboration, giving you firm direction, and sending you on your way. Free reign leadership is rare because you save it for people that have worked together for a long time, 15, 20 years, maybe 10, but are also professionals. They know their craft inside out, upside down and backwards. You say, here's the mission. I want it done by the end of the day, and you walk out. Problem is a lot of leaders use this with the wrong group and wonder why shit didn't get done. And then lastly is servant leadership. What do you need from me as a leader for you to be successful? I want my people coming to me going, I kind of need this. Well, I can't give you that, but I can help you with this. Or yes, I can absolutely give you that. So those are 4 levels that people don't consider in leading anything. And you can take a good leader and parachute them, metaphorically speaking, into any group. I got parachuted in as a COO of a concrete company. I know that much about concrete. I know a lot more now. Oh my God, I can tell you all about precast concrete. But a good leader knows the people and knows how to get their experts into action as soon as possible. So that's what you're looking for, is a good leader that can get their people moving. And you don't necessarily need to understand what they do best.
Oh my gosh.
Great.
We're only 30 minutes in. I'm already fired up and just ready to get back into business, man. This has been phenomenal. I've already got my one thing makes me uncomfortable. I'm going to start working on. I mean, I got all these things. So
you
if you see me looking down, it's because I'm jotting down notes. So
it's all good, brother. You're good. You're good. Do you mind me asking what your uncomfortable thing is?
Running. I hate running, but I know it's good for me. I've gained a few pounds by sitting on airplanes and eating fast food while on the road. So it's like, that's the one thing I just need to push myself to do.
Very cool. Very cool. I love it.
Start training for a half marathon or something.
Yeah. This year for me, it's a 12-hour walk and spearfishing.
Oh, nice.
Spearfishing. Wow. That'll be cool.
I live on an island, man.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah. Do as the locals.
There's an ocean right there. So
That's awesome.
May as well.
might as well get in it. So
How much are you on the road, Sean? Are you traveling quite a bit?
I do travel quite a bit. I still have clients all over North America. As a matter of fact, just prior to the summer, I was in Nashville, Quebec City, Toronto, Vancouver, Sonora Island, and then all the way back. So
Wow.
yeah, constantly on the road. I have European clients, but I also have a team of 6 people that also speak on their own intellectual property, their own specialties. They get to travel as well, so that helps me. And quite a bit of virtual, obviously, considering my location. But no, I still travel quite a bit. Absolutely. I'm very blessed and very fortunate to be able to connect with people. And there's no better way than face to face. Let's face it.
Agreed.
So I wanted to go back to military a little bit. We talk about leadership,
Sure.
and you have a lot of knowledge about that. Is there some mentors or some people that have been in your path that you can talk about or tell some stories about? Because obviously this comes from somewhere. So
Yeah, and I think it's funny. It's one thing that we need more now than ever before is mentorship. And I've always had the blessing and the privilege of having great mentors. When I first got to the airborne unit, Chuck Barnsley and Ken Nunn were there for me, and both were legends in the community. They were in advanced, they were in reconnaissance. They were pathfinders. They were like, yeah, the godfathers of anything para, and their willingness to see what was in me that I couldn't see in myself, and offer me opportunities, and then use those opportunities as coaching. What were you, and not necessarily, oh my God, what were you thinking? It's actually more like, so what were you thinking that got you there? Notice just a simple shift of tone, right? And every mentor I've ever had, whether it's been in the military or law enforcement, or even now, they ask me great questions that I never think to ask myself, or hold me accountable through good questions. Yeah, that was on me. I totally stepped on that one. That was, so because that's where, if failure is the ultimate university, then right out of the gates, your 101 courses is experience. And if you can learn from the experience of others versus your own mistakes, that's huge. And I mean, other cultures do it, no problem. And you see trades do it, like, with, the apprentice and the master, of course, and so on and so forth. But you really want to find great people that are going to guide you, and you don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to go out there and go, hey, look, I love what you're doing. I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to understand your story. Is there any way you would be willing to mentor me? Now, my early mentors, I didn't do that. They were just there, and they offered. And then I started to realize the value, and I started asking. And now it's my turn to be the mentor. So I mentor a handful of people every year, a couple of people I've kept for years, and watch them carry on. I mean, that's legacy. People talk about legacy all the time. I mean, if you really want a legacy, mentor somebody into something great, fantastic, into greatness. There are people that will not allow people to go past the person that's leading them because they don't want to be replaced. That's a massive problem. I almost said about 5 other things that were completely inappropriate. I really had to harness that one in. Really had to, wow, that took some calories. Anyway,
calories and willpower, right?
That's
the mental toughness coming through.
There's mental toughness right there. But it's so true. I think my success is when the people I'm mentoring or coaching become better than me. Whatever that metric looks like for them or me, it doesn't matter. When you have done that, I'm successful. That's my resume. You are my resume.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the power of it. And when more people did that, we would see people blowing records. Hell, you would see the Maple Leafs win. Okay. Like,
okay.
Seriously.
I don't know if you want to go that far.
I had to poke the bear at least once just to see who would bite. At the end of the day, my mentors, the amount of gratitude I have for them, I cannot state enough. I am exactly who I am now because someone believed in me when I thought it, and I didn't see it in myself. That fought for me when I couldn't for myself. And that is probably one of the greatest gifts in my lifetime, outside of my own marriage and my children. So if you need a mentor, go find one. Find someone you deeply, deeply respect, that has pushed every boundary, failed more times than they've succeeded, that have really made an impact, and go ask them.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's one of the things our business really does well is we have a lot of people in this industry that do a wonderful job of training the people underneath them. And,
Nice.
and, you know, I see more directors and superintendents that take more pride in the people they've moved on than in any course rankings or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, along the lines of mentor mentee, when you are a young person or you're not, you know, the first in command, how do you go about, and I don't even know the question I'm trying to ask, but how do you go about whether it's setting yourself apart or making sure your voice or opinion is heard? How does a younger person, or again, someone that's not in charge, how does someone go about that, making sure that, you know, their opinions, their point of view is heard?
Start with great questions. Leaders will often dismiss a statement, but will listen to a question. From a question, now you can have a conversation. And then you can go from there. The thing with youth is you have all this exuberance, enthusiasm, you have passion, undirected, sometimes passion, hopes. They're not limited by someone crushing their dreams as of yet, okay, or somebody saying it can't be done, or maybe they do. But that exuberism, that enthusiasm can sometimes lead them down the wrong path. Sometimes that's where, unfortunately, the cockiness and the arrogance kicks in. Now, with that being said, I like cocky. I'll take cocky all day long. Arrogance, I'm going to stomp on it pretty quick. But I like cocky. Cocky just shows that you're willing to try. Cocky says you're willing to put it out there. Okay, let's see what, as a leader, and you're cocky. Okay, let's see what you're going to do with that. You're either going to fall down or you're going to succeed, in which case I got a lesson for either side. Now, as a leader talking to that person, you want to build a rapport with them in such a way that builds their curiosity. You need to get their curiosity engaged. And once you do that, now they're asking you questions, or sometimes even giving them a standard of the question. You know, that's not the right question. I want you to go back, think about that question, come back to me with a different question about what you want to know. And sometimes even just pushing back a little bit and causing them to dig a little deeper. Okay, now you're there. Now you're there. And that's what I love. I mean, right now I have a young mentee that I've been working with since she was 14. And she's doing her PhD in St. Andrews University in Scotland. She's like a hop, skip, and a jump from the motherland of golf. And now she's in her early 20s, and she skipped her master's. She went from high school, degree, doctorate.
Wow.
In behavioral psych. Here's the catcher. She's high functioning autistic.
Wow.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. The thing that really elevated me as a mentor was her. She asked me questions that taught me to ask other mentees, or push other mentees to ask questions, because she was asking questions that were not typical, alinear. They were all over the map, and they were thoughtful. And I love that differentiation. So if you're going to connect to those people to give them great advice, ask them great questions and get them asking you great questions. And then you can have that place. Also, don't be afraid to be direct, of holding them, their feet to the fire, holding them accountable. You can do that in a very, very coaching way, nurturing way that's not punitive, but holds them. No, that's not correct. No, that's not okay. But we can use this as a learning. So what are we going to do differently? So that's my favorite question to ask a mentee is, okay, you messed this up. What are you going to do differently? Puts it back on them. The ownership always has to go back on them. What are you going to do differently? well, I think I'm not going to tell them off in the future. That's a good start.
Yeah.
Or, hey, maybe I won't lead with my emotion. Okay, great. So what are you going to do? Give me an action plan. So what would you do differently to action plan? Bang. And now they're feeling good because they came up with the result. They came up with the solution. Now, a good leader has to push and pull. Sometimes I don't give them the answer. Sometimes I know they're going to fail. I'm watching them fail. I could intervene. No. It's actually better for you to fall down and me help you up than me to try to catch you. Now, imagine being my daughter. And she's 30 now. But in her teenage years, I watched her fall down more than a few times, and I let her fall down and then I helped her up. And that lesson was actually better for her than me just trying to save her.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you just about being a leader and having a team. How do you handle situations when team members might not see eye to eye?
Oh, you've lived through this.
Well,
Okay. Okay. So there's always going to be some differentiator where people are not going to agree. That's human nature. That's what makes us special as humans. We're not meant to agree. Do you think I've agreed with like every idea that comes out of a team? The one thing I really loved about being a part of a reconnaissance unit is that people provide, it's very collaborative. It's not as authoritative as people think. It is, but it's also very collaborative. And you end up with an idea that you're not really a fan of. But what's more important, you or the mission? See, the difference of opinion can be negotiated or arbitrated through a second party. A good leader will be able to get people to sit down and talk to each other. Okay, you don't have to agree, but we do need to get through this together. Full stop. See, no one gets permission to disagree anymore. Yeah. Oh, no, we all got to get along. No, we don't. Okay, I don't need you to agree with it. I need you to do it. So please let me hear your side. But at the end of the day, we are doing this and I need you in. I need you and you're okay. And then I reinforce why they're important to the mission, why each of those two human beings are important to the mission. However, now let me go after the inadequate personality in the room, the person that likes to create the discourse, the person that likes to create the mess, the passive-aggressive personality or the manipulator or the passive-aggressive manipulator that has narcissistic tendency. I can keep going. There's a whole grocery list but every group has one. Person that doesn't necessarily want to be in charge, but wants to have it their own way. You've all met that one. Or the person that loves using rumor control to sow discourse and get people to voice a more aggressive opinion without them doing it. Or to create self-doubt in certain people. Every group has one. And here's the thing about that individual. They don't see themselves as evil. No one does. No one ever sees themselves as evil. Okay. So as a leader, you have to be able to address that difficult personality in a group. There's always one. And typically the reason for this difficult personality is either their experience. They've learned that through these tactics, they can stay comfortable. That's one of many reasons. I'm really this is such a scratch of the surface. But at the end of the day, a good leader needs to address this personality as well, to let them know we're all in that. This is the standard. This is the line. This is your minimum level of acceptable success and behavior. This is the mission. Let's get there. And also a good leader knows when to either engage that person or disengage that person. And it's usually centered around their comfort zone. They don't like the idea of being pushed. They don't like the idea of things done, outside of their own agenda. They like their comfort zone. That's comfy, safe. And that's usually not the whole motivation, but that's usually the most common. Again, I'm probably rambling, aren't you?
Sean, we could just turn the mic over to you and let you talk for an hour, us not say anything, and I would get so much out of it. So do not apologize. It's so good.
Thanks, brother.
One of the things I want to ask, so in this industry, a lot of the individuals and teams in this industry get a lot of criticism from outside influences.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's members criticizing conditions or other team members at their own facility. What are some tools that you could recommend for some of these people that are receiving criticism for, whether it's something that was in control or something that was out of their control?
Well, here's the problem with criticism. It's very low hanging fruit, isn't it? Once in a while, good criticism, and I mean good criticism, has a value to it. Like if you're paying, but what happens is that we get so much of it, we tune it out. It becomes noise. And it's important to listen even to the low hanging fruit. It's just a matter of whether you let it start to weigh you down. There's a really good book on it called Just Listen. And when I do executive coaching, like this is a must read for my clients. And it's about active listening. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, and it's written by Dr. Mark Gouldston, and if you like, I can send you guys my reading list. I'm happy to do so.
Please. I'm writing it down right now. And I promise I'm still listening too.
I bet you are. I can chew gum and fart at the same time. It's multitasking 101. It's all
that might be my new favorite quote.
So the reason is that if you're receiving criticism, first of all, give it the time to listen and listen actively. Now you get to now the problem with that is you have to listen without judgment. And if you've gotten a lot of nonsense, your judgment or your evaluation is going to kick in. Can you observe or listen without evaluation or judgment? Just sit there and take it in. And then I follow up with paraphrasing. So what I hear you saying is that you don't like this. Am I hearing that right? Now, by doing that, they either say, yeah, and now they've seen you listen. Okay, you are listening to me. Now you're getting buy-in through the listening. Okay, so what about this is the problem right now, and how can I help you? What can I do right now to help you with this? Well, I don't think you can help me now, but I'd like you to pay attention to it. Perfect. I'm happy to do so. I'll pass it on to the team. Boom. Okay, if it is something that can be actioned now, and it falls within your list of parameters and priorities for your mission, then action it. And then follow up with that person going, hey, by the way, just so you know, really appreciated the feedback today, and we took care of it. However, you do get those criticisms that are just like armchair quarterback. People have nothing better to do than to nitpick at you. Guess what? There is a way to get rid of them. There really, really is. Start asking them for solutions. Not a joke, seriously. So what do you suggest? Like, is there any solutions you would like to offer at this time to help us out here? Because obviously this is important to you. So what are some of your ideas? And then you're going to see them go, or they're going to have something in mind. At the end of the day, you're never going to make 100% of people happy. However, at the end of the day, sometimes there's a gem in that criticism, and mental toughness allows you to be in the criticism without it owning you. And it's a really powerful place to be.
As kind of a follow-up there, then, sure. What do you have to say when people are taking that criticism personally?
Oh, well, that's a coaching moment for sure. Okay. You have to start with the why. Why is this personal to you? Because then you're going to get there real quick. It could be because they feel inadequate, because they feel diminished, because they feel it's unfair. It's because, or they've heard it 20,000 times and death by 1,000 pinpricks kind of problem. But when you ask the why, you're going to get the story. Then you can follow up with, okay, what do we need to do from here? Now, notice the way I laid it out. What do we need to do from here? It's us. Okay, and by the way, we means I'm going to help you, but you're doing all the work. Yeah. So it's a collaborative we, but the we is mainly you. So, and then go from there. How do you see that happening? And then before you know it, you are getting their brain engaged. So let me give you a little background and a little bit of neuropsychology here, or neuroanatomy. So what's happening when they're emotional is they got an amygdala hijack. Their fight flights responses kicked in. They're ready to run or they're ready to fight. Now the hippocampus is kicking in, adding in sadness, aggression, whatever, anger. Okay, so now all this stuff is mixing. Well, guess what's turned off at this time? Your prefrontal cortex is turned off. Your tactical and strategic brain is off. It doesn't coexist. That's why if you see F1 drivers or high-level pro golfers or competitive shooters at the Olympics even, especially at the Olympics, they're able to stop this process and use this process. Okay, when a person has a mental block, they're not wrong. It's because the wrong part of their brain is working and they don't work simultaneously. So by asking them questions, we shift gears, mentally speaking, into the prefrontal cortex where they're now thinking about it versus feeling about it. Because typically people are feeling a problem. Okay, and if you really want a quick shortcut, what do you feel? I don't even ask how they're feeling. Go straight to the direct method. I see that you're frustrated. Even if you're wrong, they're going to tell you, I'm not frustrated. I'm annoyed, or I'm angry, or this is whatever. They're going to use their language. Reinforce it. Okay, so I see you're angry. What's got you here? What's caused this? Now you can go into because now you've addressed the emotion. Once you've addressed the emotion, the brain automatically goes, wait a minute, I had to assess that emotion, and that's not this part of the brain, that's this part of the brain.
Hang on a second here.
So by the way, even works on yourself. When you are compromised, you can literally say to yourself, I'm pissed off. Just say it to yourself, and bang, your front part of your brain kicks in. And I've done this in real time, whether it was still when I was a first responder or when I was in the military, or even now when I'm dealing with a very contentious leader. I got to keep myself get out of my own way, keep myself out of the equation. So a great way to do that is, hey, I'm angry about this. So, and I'm not saying this to them. This is saying to me, the moment I identify that emotion, that emotional intelligence of self-admission, now you can say, okay, so what's needed here? Because your emotions are about what's wanted. Analytically, strategically, it's about what's needed. So what's needed, I need to help this person. And sometimes kindness is an act of mental toughness.
100%.
I can see that. I can see that. Well, this has been really good, Sean. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about, you mentioned disruption earlier, and we have a lot of that in our industry. We do have some scheduling, we do have some structure, but a lot of times it's, get out there early in the morning and we'll see what happens and we'll see what we have to deal with. So expand a little bit on that of, leveraging that disruption.
Well, first of all, you got to call it out. Once you see it or someone sees it, let them call it out. Give people permission to call out a disruption, or yourself. Sometimes you do have to, you don't have much of a plan, but you got to create action. That's why I like the 60 to 70% rule. 60% there, yeah, let's get you guys out there and let's get moving and we'll figure the rest out. It's like building a parachute on the way down. Okay, if it's important to you, you're going to do it. Okay, I don't suggest it, don't try it, but it's a lot like that. So with that being said, as disruptions happen, call them out. They're not evil. It doesn't look bad on you because something has gone wrong. Okay, hey, this has gone wrong. What's our solution? Right now, what's going on, one of the biggest things I'm dealing with, or the biggest questions I'm dealing with, is that we have people that are creating excuses or blame. It's not me, it was this. It's all, well, the sun was in my eyes, or my alarm didn't go off, or I didn't know, you didn't text it to me. So with that being said, we want to build a solution-based culture. So how do you do that? Well, you gotta be very obvious about it. Let people know that you have permission to create solutions, but you gotta keep me in the know of what you're doing, what the problem is, and what you're doing about it. So here's the 3 rules I would bring when I have a new team in the military. These are my 3 rules. 1, you need to keep me in the know. I don't care if everything blew up. I don't care if you blew up your car. Okay. If you don't tell me, I can't help you. I can't support you. I can't get you through it. I can't help you through it. You got to keep me in the know. Okay. There might be ramifications to it. I don't know, but you keep me in the know. 2, there's a solution for everything. If you're going to bring me a problem, you've already got a solution in your hand. Don't bring me a problem without a solution. It's called bitching and whining. I got my schedule's already kind of full. That's not a priority on my schedule. Okay. But bring me a solution. Now, by the way, in my history of doing this, 9 times out of 10, 90% of the time, I used their idea first because they knew it better than I did. Sometimes I'd have to add a little nuance here or there because maybe they didn't see the big picture. No big deal. 9 times out of 10, I picked their idea because it was good. Pragmatic, actionable. That's what you're looking for. Lastly, we're in this together. Nobody stands on their own. Those are the 3 rules. And I'm explicit about it. And in the first time with the new team, I'm saying it every day. Then I moved to every week, monthly, then once in a while just to remind them. But I'm constantly saying it over and over and over again. My 12th commandment of mental toughness is find a way or make a way, which breeds a solution-based culture. There's always a way. It's just not always convenient or pleasurable or necessarily your comfort zone. But there's always a way. So if you give your people permission to create solutions, believe it or not, things are going to move really fast.
Every ounce of what you've said in this hour has helped tremendously.
Okay, cool.
I know we're kind of getting short on time here, Sean.
All good. It's all good.
One thing I wanted to ask, I mean, it's just very evident in the way you're speaking and the smile on your face and everything. You love what you do.
Yeah.
Just talk about the joy you get from what you are doing and helping teams and individuals around the world.
In a lot of ways, I'm giving back because I received so much. Secondly, I can't complain with the way things are unless I'm willing to create a solution for systemically. And the best place to create a solution is leaders. And of course, the best place to start is youth, but it doesn't matter really. And we're all open to learning at a certain level, depending where we are. But I love what I do because I'm trying to leave a legacy that when my time comes to pass, there are better people that are going to lead the charge into the next generation, the one after that, and the one after that. And I love watching people grow. I just love watching that little light bulb go off in their head. And I love watching them go, that wasn't as hard as I thought. Hell no. Of course not. We got this. Or watching me fall down and them going, uh-oh. And learning from my failures. I love that too. It hurts the ego or bruises the ego pretty good, but I love that too. So my legacy is every time I get to connect and give people one thing that they can make something better with. I grew up kind of bullied, not kind of a lot. I got bullied a lot. And you have a choice when you're bullied. You kind of become the bully, or you can make a choice to change things. I choose to change things. And that's the extent of it. There's nothing special about it. There's nothing overly complicated or, about it. That's it right there.
One last question, follow up from my side. I'm sitting here in this hour and I'm like intensely motivated right now. And I know our listeners, when they have an opportunity to listen to this as well, are going to come away with this excited with all these things written down on their list. And then obviously, as things do, people get busy, things change, and and they kind of forget some of these lessons. How would you recommend people stay in that constant mode, be reminded of some of the lessons they've learned in this hour and listening to you?
That is a very good question. Look, I'm not a motivational speaker. I get called that all the time. I'm not. Actually, if you want to know what annoys me, it's probably that title. I'm probably a demotivational speaker, if anything. But realistically, though, motivation, I can motivate anyone for 5 minutes. A good leader knows how to motivate people to do great things. That's a part of the obligation of being a good leader. That's actually, when you take leadership school in the military, 13 weeks long, guess what? That's a part of the program. Because you're asked to do some pretty uncomfortable things. And how do you get people to do that? You got to motivate them. Problem: motivation is finite. So if you really want longevity and motivation, tap into passion. Tap into passion. If you're passionate about something, you will do it all day long for free. Okay. Ask a kid what they're passionate about. They will spend an hour. hour with you telling you whether it's Star Wars or hockey or golf or whatever. They'll talk about it ad nauseum. So tap into your passion. Let your passion lead your motivation, because there are days you're not motivated. I mean, today I didn't want to do my workout. Guess what? It got done because I said, my passion? Where's my passion piece in this? Okay. Well, my passion is I'm going to be going to Japan with my daughter this coming in 26, and I want to keep up to her. Okay. I turned 55 this month. I need to keep up to a 30-year-old. So guess what? My passion is I got to keep up, do the workout. So tap into your passion. It'll make your motivation so much better.
So last one I have from my side, and then we'll turn it over to you if there's anything you want to talk about. But you
Sure.
told the story earlier about the big failure that taught you some lessons. I would love for you to tell one of your favorite stories about a big success that you had.
A big success.
Somewhere where you were stuck down and you didn't know if you were going to make it, and you guys were able to get out.
Yeah, I sure.
There's probably a lot of them.
Yeah,
It's hard to
there
pick
is,
one.
but it is like I moved to Portugal. I mean, that was a massive success, 3 years worth of work. But realistically, I think it's when I first got out of the military, no one wanted to hire me. Like I went back to school, and like things were not good. I started realizing I had PTSD. I didn't have any idea at the time. My life was starting to turn upside down. Almost went homeless, went bankrupt. And when people, especially my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, just said, you're really good at this one thing. And if you do this one thing, we're going to be good. And you know something? Here I am. And sometimes you can't see it for yourself. But my greatest success was taking something that I thought was worthless and turning it into something that helps a lot of people. And I am very grateful for that, and for her, and for everything that along the way. All the people that believed in me, took chances on me. I mean, Coach DeTulio took a chance on me. The CEO of a concrete company took a chance on me to be a COO. I mean, that's what you're looking for, those people that can put a little educated risk in you to see where you're headed. So my success is, I guess, it's not being here, but the journey that got me here, and giving people that belief in me. I think that's my success.
That's fantastic. I think something Adam and I can kind of both reflect on as well, growing businesses in our own right and just kind of taking a chance and following our passions. So
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, Sean. This has just been absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to be reaching out to you here at some point when we
Please do.
hang up, and would love to chat some more with you. But this
Love
is
that.
your episode, Sean. We always give our guests an opportunity to wrap up and, leave any final thoughts, anything you want to talk about, anything you want to touch upon. The floor is yours.
I thought we covered a lot, to be honest. But if I could, there's always a reason not to do something, and there's always something in the way. There's always going to be that in life. That's just the way it is. And sometimes the things that knock you down aren't evil, and they're not actually bad. They're happening for a reason. If you are paying attention, they could put you in a direction that dynamically changes your life for the better. But we have this pre-existing idea of where we should be. And should is one of the most insidious words in the English language, because it's a language of expectation. I should be here. I should have this. And should and exception and having expectations breed disappointment. And disappointment, of course, slides into disgust, anger, depression. So as things happen to you, remove yourself from the equation a little bit and say, what can I do with this that's going to become successful? What's it teaching me? What's it going to take for me to go beyond this point? Because short of you dying, you can keep going. So that's it. That's it. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of tough things happening in the world. The world's a very upside down place these days. And you know something? As much as it is upside down, I'm actually relishing these moments because you're seeing the emergence of great people. This is where people grow, is during these times, not when times are good, now. So start finding the good people now, because they're going to take you when we get past this, and we will get past this. So that's it. There's my 25 cents. It was an honor. It was a real honor to be here. And thank you so much for asking me.
Now we're in an opportunity for growth is kind of the mindset where it needs to be right now, right? So how can people find you, Sean? Social media, website, all that fun stuff.
I'm on LinkedIn under Sean Bacon or Dynamic Shift Consulting. I'm also, my website is dynamic-shift.com. So feel free to look me up on both those. I'm also on Instagram under Dynamic Shift, all one word, lowercase. But other than that, find me, ask me questions. I'm always curious myself.
Coach, we honestly can't thank you enough for this. We didn't know, doing a show like this, it's always a little bit of a gamble bringing somebody different on. But I knew even at 1% of the lessons and the things that I learned from you, got put out today to our public. I knew it would be something that's special, and I think you hit it out of the park. You could be somebody that would be at our national conference or like our conference to be able to speak to leaders in our industry, because a lot of the stuff you talk about is stuff that we go through. And I think even just thinking back on this all, learning a lot of this from you has sparked what Turf Today was, because I recognize the group of people and the industry for what it was and how the people are to each other. And I wanted to be a part of it, and thinking, fuck, I got to start a podcast. Like, everybody wanted me to start a podcast. I'm like, how am I going to start a podcast? But it went back to, well, I got through those 48 hours in Alabama. I can do this. And here we go. And here we are. So man, I really appreciate everything you've done for me, my family, our team, and now everybody that's listened to this. I hope, I know people will take something from it. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
The honor's mine.
Well, Sean, we'll let you go. We know you're busy.
Take care of
so
yourselves.
appreciate your time, and we'll touch base soon.
Thanks
Enjoy
a lot,
yourselves.
Coach.
Stay safe.
All right.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Sean. You too. That was, we've obviously done some great podcasts with industry people in the past, but that's by far the best podcast I think we've ever been a part of. Like, just the lessons that came out of that 60-minute conversation we just had there with Sean was unbelievable.
He brings up so many different emotions when he talks, and he makes you think about so many different things. When I met him and heard him speak for the first time, it was like, I've never met somebody like this before. Where they're so confident and they're so smart and they're so experienced in all of this stuff that you just hang on to it. And he pushed us so hard as a team and as individuals that it's something I'll never forget. It's something that I think about often. And it's shaped the kind of person that I am. So I know it's not easy for anybody to just go through a boot camp like that, but putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and finding ways to, learn new things about yourself and grow are only going to make you better. And you might not realize it right away. I didn't realize it right away when we went through all that. It took years and years of, why am I still thinking about this? Why do I still compare things to this? And then it turns into, oh my gosh, that was so good for me. That was life changing. And it was all him. It was all him. And like I said earlier, he could be on the stage at GCSAA talking to all the superintendents, and they would all hang on to every single word. So we are so lucky to be able to have him on today and let him talk, because it's life changing getting to meet someone like that.
It was incredible. Going back to the training you guys went through, he said putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, and the thought of wading through a pond or waters full of snakes and all that, like, dude, I hate snakes. That's probably one of my biggest, like, I wouldn't quite say fears, but just my top ick. And just the thought of wading through waters with snakes, not that would certainly push me to the very limit.
I was one of the people that were like, I'm not doing this. Like, we're in Alabama and this is a swamp, and I'm not getting in that water. And they're like, no, you're treading water for an hour. Get in there. And we did it. It was crazy. The other one they had us doing on the dock, You were on the dock, off the dock, so you had to keep jumping. We had to have a certain amount of people on the dock at a certain time and a certain amount of people in the water at a certain time. So you had to keep jumping off and on the dock and pull. We had to pull people up onto the dock, and we did it for like an hour. It was
Wow.
insane. And yeah, you just go over to the dock. Two guys would grab you, pull you up. Now you're on the dock, and you got to go over and find somebody else to pull up, and then you jump in, and it was
That's cool.
insane. There's another one we did where we had to crawl across this long field and you were in partners and you had to push the other guy. So instead of carrying somebody, you had to physically push them. And they're crawling and you're pushing them and they're crawling. And my partner was there, my other goalie partner, who was a lot stronger than me, and he was dragging me across that field. Like he's pushing me, I'm pushing him, and he was just dragging me across this field. Like, oh my gosh, it was so hard, but so amazing. Like life
Yeah.
lessons and yeah, like when he talks about, thinking back, nothing will ever be this hard. I don't know if I'm ever going to be in a situation like that where you're almost ready to throw up and give up nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that was powerful, man. That was powerful. Like I said, I've got a page full of notes here just from the conversation. I'll probably even go sit down and reflect on that conversation a little more when we wrap up here. But that was just a lot of lessons. And I think a lot of people shy away from listening to stuff like this because it's, not an industry person. But, I think that was as applicable of a conversation as anything else that we've had. There are so many lessons in there that people are going to be able to utilize to grow as a professional in this industry. So it was incredibly beneficial.
Mhm. Well, we've all worked many jobs where you just work, but our industry, it's a serious job. It's a hard job. And a
Yeah.
lot of that stuff he talks about, the resiliency, the leadership, the mental toughness, being able to push through anything and adapt and, leverage these disruptions to be positives. Like it
Yeah.
all goes back to our industry. We deal with that stuff every single day. So
Every
yeah,
day. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
uh, he he provided a lot of advice, and I hope that people enjoy this one.
I would think they will. I certainly hope they do.
All right,
All right,
buddy.
dude. Yeah. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, great job today.
Yeah. You too. We'll see you.
We are back with another Ask the Agronomist question featuring PhD agronomist Tony Goldsby from the Andersons. Our question today comes in from Conrad Walters. What are the steps that Dr. Tony takes when diagnosing a disease spot?
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Adam, for having me on the show this week, and thanks again to Conrad for submitting another great question. You guys are always keeping me on my toes when I come visit. So, yeah, when I'm looking, at any site, right, and typically, specifically, if I'm stepping on a site where I think that a disease could be a possibility, I'm always playing detective, right, and kind of trying to uncouple, if you will, what potentially could be what led us to whatever issue that we're observing here, and a great place to start anytime we're talking about pathogens has got to be our disease triangle. And, I know we hit on it a little bit in our last segment, but for those of you who didn't catch that one, right, you got to have really three factors: the right host, the right pathogen, and the right environment to really be able to create a situation where you're going to have a disease start to form in your turf grass. So, probably step one when I'm out there from an investigation perspective, I'm really looking at what kind of patterns are we noticing across the turf, right? Is there anything that's, circular in pattern, or any like streaking that we could see that could potentially be moving with water? Also I like to think about what are my recent conditions, right? So has it been really hot, humid, right? What have they been doing from a mowing practice? Is they out there mowing it every day? Is it once a week or every other week? And then finally, really getting down into the turf, kind of at that last level. And, it's really good to see, are you seeing any actual symptoms? And I think the best place to always look at that would be on the margins. So that's really where you have, dead turf meeting healthy turf, where the disease or, stress hasn't progressed anymore. And trying to really get in that middle area there. And again, seeing if you're seeing any like hourglass type lesions, which would be very common with like a patch type disease or something like that, that may tip you off. And, if you are really leaning heavily towards that being some sort of disease, I would always recommend pulling some samples from, again, that same area we're talking about. So you want a margin area where you have healthy turf and dead turf kind of mixed in the samples so the pathologist can get a really good idea. Because if you send them a dead spot, it's pretty hard to know what did it. And if it's fully healthy turf, they obviously don't have the pathogen. So finding it right in the middle there is a great way to send that in. You know, work with your local pathology lab and get that, you know, diagnosed properly. And that's going to be a key piece of it. Now, I will say, you know, layering all those clues together and all those conditions and plant history are going to give you a pretty good idea of whether or not it's going to, you know, be a disease. But again, getting it diagnosed by a pathologist is always going to be best. And, you know, the thing that always shocks a lot of turf managers, and I think we all know it, it's just easy to try to kind of go to, you know, potentially disease being the issue, is that 50% of the issues that are submitted to most pathology labs and that we see out there are just abiotic stresses, right? So things like drought, traffic, or nutrient imbalance that truly aren't any actual pathogen that's impacting the turf. So, although it's always great to check that off the list, right? I mean, quite often, as you all know, managing turf every single day, right? There's a lot of other factors that really go into keeping your turf healthy. So, it's not always necessarily a disease, but again, I think that's a definite one you want to check off the box. And if you think that's something you're dealing with, work with a pathologist, and then that's going to be the first part in coming up with some sort of program to remedy that situation.
More good advice, Tony. That's very important. We have so many different things that go on the golf course, and being able to identify them sometimes is tough. And I just like to add, that's where you use your network, right? That's where you're reaching out to agronomists, pathology labs, like you said, or, you know, your superintendents that are in your area, because they may be dealing with the exact same thing, or they have seen the exact same thing. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. I don't know if posting it on Facebook is the way to go, but you know, reaching out to some of your friends, probably a good idea. So
You might get a lot of pathologists that chime back if you post it on Facebook, but yeah,
that's
great,
true
great
too.
shout outs
I
there,
guess you got
Adam.
to depend on what course you're at, because you got to watch
Yeah,
that sometimes.
there you go. There you go.
All
Do it
right.
for
Well,
a friend.
yeah, exactly. This wraps up another installment of Ask the Agronomist featuring Dr. Tony Goldsby from the Andersons.